Yeah.
It was really fun.
It was.
We were really interested.
Right. So now it's met in Vienna. I was in Vienna before she went.
Oh,
Before now, this year.
I went to Delhi. She came. Sid and I went out to Delhi. Who is at the hall? Let me just get this.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
So Steve from Betson, she was in
Oh, great.
but Vienna was in for kind of
I sound terrible.
I know.
Yeah.
you should join the Hague.
Gaza. Which I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys get whichever way.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, I didn't run.
In the equation is that we talk one of our next steps is using an invite to watching it. I'm not saying yes, but you can
Yeah, we have.
choose.
Here's a
Yeah.
money will come. But wait,
Yeah.
Especially how do you So,
And Michael, what's your genius? MHCC.
and that's not quite
You need to join. Okay, hold on. I sent you a drawing as really I do need
Yeah.
computer is not happy.
we can't. That is. Works for you, like do it some
See that you can
Yeah. My foot. Sorry, I should open the screen. Am I there?
You're there.
Okay. Okay, I'll hang up on the phone. So.
I think.
Thank you, everybody. Trying to get things set up. We are. Áine, can you mute? Your phone, when you're on. So as you can see, I'm at Internet Advocacy Roundtable. As you can see, we have two panelists here, one in New York,
Right. Alan, the line is really bad.
Yeah, that's can we, all right. Okay, we'll plug in when we're ready to do more. This is
Stand close to that.
yeah, I know. The thing is, this is going to be problematic. We'll need to come up to it. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I know you guys can. Knock your head if you can hear. All right. So this is the roundtable. It's a stencil. It's been a monthly event, but it's a little sporadic now than it used to be. I've been around since 2005. Here for the first time. I see some people who've been here before, some who and we want to welcome everyone. We're going to talk about innovation on training, and we have 3 speakers who I will introduce, but they'll tell you a little bit more. So when they talk, we have Dorothea Wolfson, who is professor of government here at Johns Hopkins University, and has been teaching online for quite some time. The Blackboard and also has worked with on for teaching university. Cameron Chisholm, president of the Institute for Peace and Security. Let's get those eyes. And has been doing some really good work at creating online hybrid training modules, simulations, really cutting edge work, and he's going to tell us about that. And then we have Áine Fay from CERN Worldwide on the screen, New York, and CERN Worldwide was put together a built response module training first response in natural disasters to know not just about doing first response, but how to plug into these systems that they will be when they get on site. And it's he has to be able to get the first round running when they show up in a situation, immediately. So I've been very interesting innovations in regard to using teach at various different levels. Just by my own background, I'm the vice president from digital strategy at and also I've been teaching online courses at Johns Hopkins. I've taught online courses at University. I've been teaching a course on internet politics since 1995, as early as 1996. Online at George Mason University. I was having my post all of their views and discussions, websites that they built, HTML code, very simple. Let's take it from scratch because these tools for published didn't exist back then. Started from there all the way I think I have a nice bird's eye on this, and I will be moderating. Our goal is to about 10 minutes each, and then into a discussion close to an hour for discussion. I will ask, should you guys like ask, I slip into, but I strongly doubt. Please speak up and ask questions and we'll have the discussion as possible. So with that, I'm going to start with Cameron, and then we'll go to Áine. We'll open it up for discussion.
Alan, I'm not hearing very well here.
Maybe shorter than 10 reasons. Here, my 1 year has declared term war. So this is a commitment from this morning that I had. And there as well. And then also I see a lot of practitioners. I really want to and learn from a so I together and thank you. Okay, perfect. So as Alan said, I'm an organization called the International Advocacy Institute. We are about 5 years old now, so we're but we were founded in the fields, management fields, to address a huge gap in practice in the just building international. So universities are brilliant students who all the theory work in conflict areas. And so the Internet Institute wanted to train and courses. And as you say, we believe that they're practicing all violent conflicts, and that future leaders need to train core skills. The most effective way to bridge the gap between theory and we started fully offline training. And, we're best known for programs, and then so how we ended up in online training, or the online training world that we're in. The first flagship I did is actually with Johns Hopkins, and it's called the Bologna Prevention, Resolution, and Remediation. And it's 30 countries, 10 and 14 hours in the States. Core skills to be effective leaders, mediation, negotiation, social entrepreneurship, trauma healing. In a month, they have really effectively hit the ground in conflict. The second leadership program is the Hague for Transitions and Interventions. So this is how do you restructure society after conflict or ceasefire or authoritarianism. Security, government, and social well-being. So what we do is experience. Okay? So we do simulations, games like this, where we have a lot of theoreticians and practitioners in the world that actually are students. We found when we were building these, they didn't like a lot of the simulation, and we're not necessarily happy the sort of off-the-shelf things that we were doing. So we started designing a lot of our and these are still in face-to-face training. So simulations anywhere from an hour long to 4 days long. From a couple actors to at the same time. And what was interesting is because we have a lot of leaders and world leaders that come from, they started asking us trainings for them. And one of the online trainings go live in the next couple of weeks. A multitude of these different government bureaus, NGOs. So essentially, statement and foreign service chaos, and they said, how do we engage religious abroad, and what are our practices, and can you design something, we don't quite know what that is, to help train U.S. officials to create policy relationships with religious actors abroad, especially within the confines of law, and conceptualize it show simulation. And go to the different embassies and would run and there would be facilitated. But then you have to do more and more research that there was just basic to actually use them. So they had the but themselves, or you could fly them around maybe 10 years. They're really great. So how do you make material more accessible, especially material like this is religion, politics, emergency fashion. This is like you talk about any of this, like and I think U.S. foreign affairs officials on these things. So we eventually came was an online hybrid interactive training. A lot of the sort of best knowledge and best practices on adult education. It's 4 modules, or 3 modules with introduction. Equal is introduced by whiteboard animation. So it really is the auditory visual learners, fun, short, and it's very, you know, if you ever seen that sort of commercials. I can show you some of this, but I'm not. But I'm telling you, it's awesome. And after that, I think what's really innovative is what these are, and you can either facilitated or self, and then the rest of the training is around that. So if you get self-paced, I'll go through a series of vignettes, case studies, where you have different voices, different conflict actors, or you might be asked questions like, which is a very broad, not certain question here. So sort of there's in their pocket, as well as sort of interactive. The whole thing is you race through it in hours. You took time to probably get through the entire 3 months. But if you click facilitate, it's really interesting. Widely downloads very detailed facilitate. I mean, there's no replacement for really facilitators, but you might as well give individuals who actually do these trainings and the multimedia to actually like a conversation that as a training, but it's better than nothing. So the facilitators click the multimedia vignettes, gains behind them, but there's no multiple choice. Instead, it'll say something like, you know, turn to your facilitator. Knows what kind of questions to ask, or what to sort of answer to questions, if they're not other follow-up questions. And that way, across the world, which didn't really mind before. And I know people were just sort of stumbling there. I was in the confines of line. Like most embassies anyway. And then the other ones are just more the religious identities, which is another module 2. perceptions and identities. The like religious identity, identity of your partners, your partners. So that's probably a little bit more niche, but still many people. And then the final module actually not even so this is and in order to design an entire thing from religious accuracy, basically the State Department is, and that was a huge challenge. It's something that is as complex as using normative religious theory and trying to make it accessible in an online training curriculum. It wasn't just us that did it; it was a huge team of academics but it should go live in the next few weeks. And we're all really excited. We've done some stuff for some organizations we're working on a big project now. Again with FSI, trauma and resilience, so much online materials for U.S. foreign affairs and trauma or after significant events or just in really structured. So I'm happy to answer questions. We're doing some stuff on gender as well, but there are a lot of other people in this, so I'll leave it there and we'll have this.
Pardon? Oh, is it right here? Okay. Oh, you do. I'm Dorothea Wolfson. I'm the program director of the government program here at Johns Hopkins. Thank you. Well, we know there's been a huge growth in online education. The Atlantic magazine recently published a report that said that more online degrees in education are granted from online universities than from on the traditional online universities 2 years ago. The presence of MOOCs, online courses at major universities led by NYU and Stanford have shaped the higher education universe and have shown the great and revolutionary potential of online education, especially in graduate schools. You reach more people nationally and internationally. Well, Hopkins is looking out of this revolution. About 7 or 8 years ago, academic programs, which any program is started talking about offering more online courses. There's natural resistance and skepticism for faculty who are trained to teach traditional methods on the ground. And I think not only issue, but I think nationwide there's that initial skepticism. But I think that's been largely overcome. Hopkins has been overcome because you've seen the high quality captured in online teaching, the quality that can still be captured. And so I think over time we become more open to, and now we become more leader, especially in this area for online graduate education. Now our program, the MA government program, has been around for 20 years. We celebrated last year our 20th anniversary, and we've always prided ourselves on the flexibility we offer to the student. And most of our students are full-time, and so we offer classes in the evening, 5:45 for class start times. And so, and that's been a great job for students. You don't want to take time off or step away from their jobs to continue their education. So offering an online platform is a logical step to even increasing our flexibility even further. Okay. So how do we build our sorry. My computer. Okay, so about 8 years ago, we started adding a couple of online offers here and there to our on-ground offerings, and we started with we started pretty slowly, using text-based classes where the professor put his lecture notes up, students would read them, and then they would respond to questions. But then over time, we've accelerated it. We moved to Blackboard, which has been a great move. And we've been able to, what we try to do is our current offerings, because those will be well received by our students, and then translate those into an online platform. And we're very fortunate at Hopkins because we have an in-house staff that helps us exclusively with our online development, called the Instructional Research Staff, the IRC. The IRC staff is trained using rubrics developed by Quality Matters. Quality Matters is the leader in the field of developing high-quality online education level programming. The IRC provides very intense training to any faculty and experience that I imagine to want to teach online classes. And this includes providing very structured rubrics and templates for our faculty for milestones they need to achieve before we even put the class online. Studies have also shown from Quality and other organizations that multimedia play a very important role in keeping online students engaged. We have a multimedia specialist who helps our faculty translate material into multimedia platforms. So they're not just putting their lecture notes online, but actually using all different techniques such as PowerPoints or actually filming lectures as well. And also utilizing other videos and instructional devices as well. The faculty may also take workshops, Quality Matters, or the Sloan Consortium you can take advantage of, just to drill down how to, for example, like more efficient group work, more dynamic interaction among students, or how to use multimedia more effectively. Okay. So here I have some of the online courses that we're offering next semester. This is just, for the spring semester. Now, Cameron mentioned theory and practice, and that's our whole philosophy in the program. We like to combine theoretical and foundational classes, more like classes, and I think even from our online classes, we have classes in politics, such as government and politics, which is a core class that all our students have to take. We have courses in American political democracy and modern critics. I'm developing a class in American exceptionalism that I think will have wide appeal as well. We also have very kinetic classes such as statistics, quantitative methods, classes on global security, terrorism, non-profit management courses as well. You can see for yourselves on the screen. And we also, I just wanted to highlight, we have degrees that are completely available online here at Hopkins in the Center for Advanced Governmental Studies, my MA in Government program, of course. And we also have MS in Governmental Analytics, a certificate in nonprofit management, and a certificate in intelligence studies. And we also want to add, we maintain high quality in our online offerings. We limit the cap to 15 students. And that enables our professors to have a maximum interaction with each student as well. Just a snapshot of some classes that are offered online. This first class is called Legislative Language and Policy Making. And this is a course that focuses on the process of drafting legislation and consequences of legislative language, implementation, and adjudication of policies. So this little snapshot that I pulled out from the class, you see the structure included a video from C-SPAN, a markup of the recent healthcare legislation to show exactly what the consequences are on the choices that legislators make and the debates that arise out of this focus. Now, in this slide, this is Dr. Ginsberg. He's the chair of the Center for Advanced Governmental Studies. He's the most prominent professor in political science. His textbook was co-written with Ted Lilly, the most widely assigned textbook in politics across all campuses in the United States. Well, he teaches, of course, American government on the whole campus. So we wanted to capture some of those lectures. So we filmed his lectures, we edited them down, We include his lectures in our course for government politics, so students have the experience of studying with one of the professors of political science. And we also intersperse along with the lectures. We have discussions, blogs, we have other assignments that'll make sure that those objectives are being reached each week. So not just again reading lecture notes, but actually see him in action. So it's a great class. On the next slide, I just took a snapshot. This is discussion boards. How do you capture that, the spontaneity and interactivity of being together in one room? Well, I can't say we can exactly capture it, but we do our best as close as we can with our discussion boards. Discussion boards are very key to online education, and this is a direct collapse the content to protect the privacy of the students. But you can see this goes on. We have PhD students are South America political thought class I taught in the summer, and I have students respond to 2 or 3 questions each week. I try to get on there as soon as I can to respond, to probe, to go a little further. And so, again, we don't have that spontaneity. We're all together in one room. We're doing a good job, I think, of having something as possible. And it's a little more thoughtful interaction. You have more time to think about your response. You have time to maybe a little more insight to feedback to students. So that's a very positive activity. All right, so I just wanted to close by, I know all of you are interested in this, our international reach that we've been able to have with online education. These are just some countries that students I've been able to reach in my class that I've been teaching for the past years. By my calculation, I think I've had students taking my class in Singapore, Korea, China, Thailand, Israel, Mongolia, Turkey, Australia, Britain, Hong Kong, Ecuador, just to name a few, actually. And it's been just wonderful because that's strength of the MA government program, is that we have really great foundational courses of political thought, courses of democracy, and there's such an interest, as you all know, in democracy and studying maybe how how developed institutions, not that they're the model for every country, but an equation of abilities that helps provide ideas of how to initiate reform in other countries. A lot of international students who are taking courses here in DC for the sole purpose of going back to their home countries, and elsewhere, to help reform. And as we have an international platform, I'm hoping we'll reach more students in these areas. We're actually developing a lot of online collectives in the area of democracy and governance. And anyway, I think we'll just continue to grow in this direction. Thank you.
Right, turn it over to Áine right now. Áine, give me 1 second just to get your volume and don't have to worry about volume. That's for us. Okay. Can you just say something so we can take the volume back?
Okay, this is Áine Fay speaking.
No.
You hearing me?
Yeah, I need to put the line out. So, yeah, put the line out.
Okay, this is Áine Fay speaking.
Okay. There's a little bit. Stop talking and we'll hear you.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me. I mean, the quality of the line is there's a huge amount of interference on the line. I don't know if you can hear me. No. Okay, can you hear me now? Oh, this. Wow. Yep. Alan, can you hear me? Hello? Alan? Hello? Oh, wow. This is one. Hello? 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 Okay. 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 Okay, this is the Building a Better Response. Okay, is that working? Shall I go ahead? Okay. Sorry about the technology problems, people. So, what I'm going to speak about is a program that Concern is part of, which is called Building a Better Response. And this is a 3-year project, which was designed really following the major disasters in Haiti and Pakistan, and the perceived lack of engagement by both national and international humanitarian actors in the coordination structures. So, so the whole idea behind it was to improve the coordination of work in humanitarian disasters. International Medical Corps leads the program with Concern and Harvard Humanitarian Initiatives as partners. And the online tool that has come out of this really was built through consultations with non-governmental organizations in several countries, face-to-face workshops, and then piloting e-learning tools. The e-learning course as it stands at the moment is a series of 5 units, and they are available online, and people who complete all 5 units will get a certificate from Harvard Humanitarian Initiatives. But the tool is also built to operate through an offline system. So with USBs or in areas of very low bandwidth, which really helps national staff of non-governmental organizations to be able to access the information. So the whole idea really is to demystify what happens in the coordination structures within emergencies, and to encourage particularly national NGOs, who are normally at the front line, to understand the system, to know that they can be part of it and contribute to it in a big way. And so, in general, the success of this workshop is really in the number of people who have taken part in the workshops, which it has reached a total of 425 people directly. But for the online course, we have almost 6,000 people who are currently taking or have completed the course. So the whole, it's a USAID funded project. So it's funded through the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance, and it's a 3-year project. And currently the rollout of the project at the moment is on these blended learning workshops, where we have people take the course online, and then we conduct workshops to build upon the information that they have gained through the workshop. To date, we have reached 969 non-governmental organizations worldwide, and the plans are that we will do, I think, several more workshops next year. I think we will have about 20 workshops which will focus on the Organization of Islamic States and the Gulf states. And the e-learning tool will be translated, it's currently being translated into Arabic and French. and there will be new modules added to the course where we're learning from what people are looking for, and secondly, from, of course, the changing nature of the environment. So keeping the tool up to date is a major part of this. So I think that's about it, unless people have questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cameron and Dorothea, for your overview of what you've been working on. I'm going to open up for discussion. Questions, comments, raise your hand. I want to start just kind of quickly or kind of putting things in. We're looking at a range of ways of using online training from organizations, from a traditional classroom gone online, university courses. He was talking about modularized, really in-depth and robust trainings that Cameron's organization has developed, and then modularized and specific trainings that concern building that response as so you see everything from this full 14-week university kind of approach to really multimedia simulation modules to that clarity and get that information there with little bandwidth as possible. That's a full range of applications. How it's used beyond these applications for training with regard to from education, but also training actors. You want to train field workers, you want to train campaign workers, you want to train field staff for organizations. Whatever you're trying to do, these are options that are available, and I want to kind of we see that bigger in the process. So take a moment here, questions from the audience.
How do you build a community using online skills? And Dorothea, we've already the person that's online teaching a very hard time trying to get empathetic connection among my students. So not getting how do you get around it? How do you get the community in your classroom?
Yeah, good question. Where do you teach? Oh, okay. Okay.
Talk George Mason.
Okay. Yeah, we do our best, especially the discussion board. Starting at the very beginning, we have to introduce yourselves, put yourself up. I don't know if you had to, say themselves, and then I always make, and I give points, and it sort of incentivizes them to respond to other people. You respond to 5 students this week, and just sort of build it up, and then they do. I mean, like they'll get together all the time. This is not always possible, national or across the country. That seems to really help to really make it part of their grade to respond to each other. And so the forced to do it, I think, initially. But after a while, I think it does build up relationships. And then I try to be very active. I mean, it's awesome. Someone to teach online, to teach on the ground. You show up for class, you're done after 2 hours, right? And you have to grade and things like that. But I think it's also, not that you're not doing something, but sort of every day and trying to make sure you facilitator and that people, you should talk to so and so. They might they're into this topic, and that's why I did a consortium on group work, because I was trying in the classes I teach one class on research methods, and I think that's a really collaborative class. We need to build those relationships, to provide feedback for each other. Part of the iterative process of writing. And so I try to find people who have an interest and partners, and then have them work projects together. Now that's kind of hard to work in an online environment. There have been times where situations in which my partner respond, and that gets trying to have more collaborative writing also. Like the course work together, but then that also I think have community over time. And I also have Adobe Connections too, which is keep FaceTime with me, and it also helps too. And then also have group connects too with a partner. That also helps. So I think a lot of that. A lot of it is just somebody you have in your class. And also a lot of students, which also helps, that a lot of our online students didn't have the online option until last year. So most of the students are here in DC. They knew each other already in part, and so that also helped, I think, those relationships. But now we are engaging in a new territory here, which is solely online. Students international won't ever meet face to face. Now, some online programs, some are looking to require a workshop where you get together somewhere, and then also face to face. These online, and they do that too, which might be for online programs. I don't know if you can say that or not, but.
There's a couple issues, and I think you both put your finger on last one, is that when it comes to diversity courses, there is a requirement involved. And so for my class, I require my students to post once of the readings and the videos in the week, and they can pick whatever they want to talk about. They have to talk about their reaction to it and build on it, and then to summarize what they saw. And then they're required to respond at least twice to other students' comments. Now that guarantees there's conversation. And what I find out of that is that most students will respond many times and get into that conversation. Every week to week, some students will have weeks where they're lighter, and other weeks they're more heavy, depending on what's happening in their own lives. I pop in and out of the conversation in a variety of different ways. Sometimes I pop into the thread. Sometimes it's in comments on the grading. Sometimes on I go back and forth with them, as well as the fact that a fair amount of the content to read and watch me. So my writing and my video and the other stuff that they're watching as well. So I create sort of a omnipresent sense. It doesn't mean that you always have to be there. The other thing that's really about is the asynchronous aspect of it. With people all over the world, the key is that nobody has to be there at the same time to talk to each other. I post something today, in the middle of the night, somebody I've had students in Thailand can respond to it, and then the next person respond to it. Because we have structure, in each of the discussion segments in my class, there's 25 people that pop back and forth. Now, so the modularized, I'm not sure how Cameron has it, but in a modular environment where you might have the ability to like a video game where there are people interacting with each other in a chat room. You could have simultaneous taking discussions happening simultaneously. You build it that way. I play an online game, right? With my, the game takes place in an alliance of people all over the world that are on my team, and then we use applications called Line, WhatsApp and Viber and Skype and such. We have a couple of chat rooms that we have set out there where we strategy and we work activities so we can be more effective. So incorporate this into a training module, into a learning module, creates opportunity for interaction, even if it is an asynchronous module. You have a response is, but if you could chat with people who are simultaneously with you, simultaneously online at the same time, could add an element to it. Cameron, do you have any which, as people are taking modules, they're able to talk to other people on taking the modules? Have you considered that with the technical requirements?
Something that we talked about, but it's just modules, but
yeah. I know, again, I go back to, I'm not a video game, but I run a fantasy football. I use Yahoo's fantasy football platform to do this. And we have a draft. It's all online, but there's a chat room. And during the week, when people are pairing off and watching the scores come in with their players, there's a chat room and a place where they can Slack talk on the side built into the interface. So it's integrated into the game. Whereas the example I gave you, a video game I play on the phone, we're using a wholly other platform to the game offline to talk to each other. And one thing that you should recognize, I think, in terms of community management in general, is that you build a platform for people to get together, and they find other ways to select the interactions outside the platform. Never take that as a sign that you have failed. Take it as a sign that you have succeeded beyond belief, because you created a community that is so dedicated to interacting with each other that they found other ways to make their experience even better than what you do. And you should learn from that and work more into it, because you're tapping into a robust community. And with regard to the project that you work on, there is this sense of social media environment. It's all voluntary. There are some assignments. We have sort of methodology for analyzing problems. We want people to experiment using and to compare. And so the creation of that task, even though it doesn't have a way of grading, does encourage people to participate. The encouragement and collaboration of people on each other's application of the methodology that we built, that we developed, and we're turning into an implementable instrument. That would be more opportunity to interact with each other, but we can't force them to do it by creating pressure them that way. What you have to do is entice them by creating as much guidance, as much opportunity, and as much reinforcement, and as easy an experience as possible on the process. Áine, are you still on the phone?
I am, yes.
So if there's anything you want to add at any point, just try in.
I suppose from the type of e-learning tool we have at the moment, it's very much a voluntary basis, and so what we are discovering with the blended learning is that quite a lot of participants have, sat in front of the computer and pressed the forward button without actually understanding fully the topic. And when we come into the workshop, we end up having to spend a huge amount of time reiterating really what they've learned, to the frustration of those that have actually done the work ahead of time. So I think some of what you've been talking about there is thing that would maybe help us to advise other ways of ensuring that there's a good understanding of the topic before they come to workshop.
Yeah. Okay, so the key is there's kind of a couple of things we're trying to talk about here. One is the delivery of video and making sure that people learn. And the second is the social experience associated with that. And that's valuable for networks, valuable in the pedagogical process.
Yeah.
Another? Yes.
Associates, this last week at some key topics that are currently available comes from the rest of Europe, and the participants there really heavily develop more project or language events, models for learning. What are we doing to also address the issues that a lot of countries is dealing with or experiencing? So definitely they're involved with that. And so looking at how to do learning via such as while mobile guys more
Let's start talking about the bandwidth focus of PBR.
Yeah, I suppose I didn't fully hear the question, but certainly the two areas. One would be the cultural appropriateness, which is a huge issue, obviously, the development of this e-learning tool that we have, cutting across so many countries with so many differing cultural norms. And really, one of the things that we have embedded into our development of this tool is really having a cultural committee, for want of a better word, to ensure even that the characters that we're using in the tool are appropriate to the context in which they're being used. In terms of the low bandwidth, I mean, this is a huge issue because, I mean, really, we want those non-government to be using this, and for very, very many of them, they're working in areas where there's very low bandwidth. And so the idea of having a USB, which they can use offline, and the complication there is that if they do it offline, of course, they don't get the certificate. They can do online, but if it's just the knowledge and an ability to engage in the system, then it's a huge added value to have it.
Now, Cameron, some of the stuff that you've developed is deliberately focused on these cultural differences.
So, and most embassies have the ability to actually have high bandwidth. We also have VDs, and from the case that doesn't have the idea can also download the entire training PDF format and print it out. So that's going to feel good. But all training done is mobile. But you're good accessibility. You're not going to be able to do it on a phone and Wi-Fi. So, technical experience with it. But I know it's something that's a lot of. I know we do
exactly what you were saying. Someone in Ireland, it's designed to be
the Blackboard, the Blackboard application has a mobile, and since so much of the action is taking place on the discussion forums, the interface on the Blackboard is pretty well designed. I wish it was better at indicating what you've read and what you haven't read. It has issues that seems to change frequently, the notifications, but it's very easy to work your way through the thread of all different conversations. And so for the interaction, there's a lot of really great stuff there, and a lot of the content, this video, most video that I'm sharing is YouTube video or C-SPAN video, they're designed to work on mobile. So you get that as well. So there are some ways around that. If you're building your own platform, then you have a challenge of always having to get up to date so that the releases of the operating systems seamlessly back and forth online, offline. You don't have the advantage of letting Boots take care of the interface for the video, and Blackboard or taking care of the other interface. You can do it yourself. So you get advantage, of course, in terms of it does exactly what you do it, but you're always in a constant tech upgrade mode because you have so many working parts that evolve on their own channels rather than a new process.
Yeah, and I would just say that by keeping our classes small, how many people enroll in these modules, it's very different. And we keep kept it 15. So, like I had a student who was in China, he had some issues with internet access and things like that, but the class was small. He emailed me. I could see that lesson, and a little extra time, but I had 300 people, a bunch of it would have been very difficult. But Yeah. So,
the question you raise is also really an interesting challenge. And differences. And and this is not unique. I just did trainings in Kenya and India, and examples that work out in one place create support in the other place. And so I think, oh, this is the perfect example to talk about this, but it may very well be we talk about some dynamic you're looking at, but because it also some other sensitive reaction that even if it's not even related to what you're trying to make, that interaction always have to do. This is something social media in general, that's the reality that you're always talking to multiple audiences at the same time, even if you only intend to be talking to one. And so how you're seen and how they are processed and reacted to audiences that you did not intend are something that you always have to do. Now, you could simply just focus on delivering the message to the audience it's focusing on, and then of course you have to deal with all of start attacking you or start spreading that. Or you could try to couch your language so it doesn't create that kind of conflict. You should do a disclaimer and say, for this audience, we'll talk about this, and it takes a little more prep to do it. But it's something you always have to do when you're dealing with training, especially when you're dealing with training our modularized and no interaction. You don't have, have contingencies in building it, whereas at least in discussion forums that we have in the classroom, if something we can put it in and shift gears a different example exemplifies what we're trying to say. This is what we were trying to get out of the thing. So,
we significantly feel that the simulations would go well before we ever put it up. And we definitely ran into unforeseen issues. So, the entry reviews, we'll flash up on the screen, an acid sheet for the characters, and then we'll use that in our in-person, and sometimes you'll have negative reactions to the characters. And so it is really difficult, especially when you're working with the governments. We have like 5 4 characters for our order, and it was like we need one short one that's overweight, one that's underweight. Women have to be wearing this different thing. Like they described like 8 characters, like 15 different people. Like maybe 4 or 5 people, 15 different people. It's not anybody. And so the conversations you have to go into is pretty fast. And also the way, especially of course, the religion course, how do you actually draw a religion, and how do you talk about a religion? Because some different perceptions of what that is. And so you can start by saying, people have different perceptions of religion, so we're just choosing these actors. We don't represent all actors. Or if you're doing like we did on Mombasa, in order to create the animation for Mombasa, you took real people, images, real people, cartoons, and then really a lot of work on listening to the voices of individuals from the area, and just taking 20 different documents and then pull the pieces and try to create it that sounds authentic, and then recording it in a voice from someone from that area, because otherwise people recognize the different accents. We might not, but someone in Kenya thinking, you're Mombasa. And just be careful and just
it would be lovely if all the people were enlightened and flexible and responsive to understanding of these considerations. But the truth of the matter is the whole point of training and education is to bring people to that. you're starting with people before in many cases. So no, and you know, kind of muddle your way through.
Yeah, and activity with the students, we also were other interactive in the class. We have a full section. The kids, you know, you're interacting with each other. But for example, don't write in all caps. That's interpreted as shouting, right? And of course, the standard, we tolerate opinions and everything too. So we worry about that and flare up. So I think we've had a good experience.
I've had issues here and there.
No, I don't think of anything to add at this stage. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a question I wanted to bring up with regard to the evolution of how to do things online. Because when I started teaching online courses here at Hopkins, I was getting a lot of comments from students going, "Wow, you have a lot of videos in your curriculum. No, none of the professors do. Really, that was great." And I got that in the first year or two. I got that a lot of students. Now I know that, which makes me think that other professors do a lot of video now. So it's not. It just becomes standard. So from what I draw the conclusion that people are starting to realize that they can use a wide range of media formats, and that creates a whole range of, you know, we know that different people learn differently. Some people learn by hearing, some people learn by seeing, some people by smelling and touching. And the way you establish this, and I'm a firm believer in as much sense as you can engage in learning in teaching somebody, what I remember, what you've taught. There are others that can touch and smell online. You know, smell of vision was offline addition to an electronic information. You know, feel, scratch, and sniff. To smell, which was the John Hopkins in the space. So, talk a little bit about how the trainings that you built, the modules that you've built, have evolved and changed over time as results of learning and sort of stuff.
For us, I think what's really interesting is that technology that was available to huge firms with multi-million-dollar budgets are now available to firms with much more meager budgets. And particularly with the animation. And I think people respond really well to it. The questions for even more than just even if there's a voiceover and you can have words and just pop up with it, words move and interact with each other. So you actually create relationships between words on the screen in a way that I think is possible before. And that is, there are some firms that are doing really well. A firm called TechChange as well. And their prices are incredibly competitive, so that we can do these interesting animations that are going to engage our users in ways that video and PowerPoint slides and sort of classic online slides, click next screen, just cannot do. And I think that's what we started out sort of ourselves as doing sort of click next. We evolved into really dynamic, interesting, animated, esque feeling of a connection, an emotional connection to the characters and the information on the screen. And that's really become possible for the past few years with workshops that are, you know, 7 figures.
The same with us. I think that our first classes were a lot of text, you know, put the lecture up, have the students read them, and it was sort of passive. The students were just reading and then maybe answering a few questions. And there are students who do like to, of course, we have heard from our students are very visual these days, and that you really need to have the multimedia aspect to engage. The issue is not just enough to put a your lecturing, even if it's a video. They don't. It's hard to sit in front of a computer for that long. Of course, we're all asynchronous, so they can start. But they recommended, look, have just 20 minutes of attendance, maybe part one, and maybe look at part two, just making it a little bit more for the students. So they really feel like they're more active, because it's very different in a classroom versus when you're by yourself. You don't have that community stimulation. So we're asking growth in that in our offerings. A lot more of that students are blogging, more interactive discussions, as well as I think just multimedia. It's been very key to keep interested in the subject matter. So we're very encouraged by what we're able to do from training. It's very different. You can't just take a successful underground course and make it work the same. I found that too with your. You have to think of what students, and it's helpful to. I've taken some online training and it can be if you're just clicking through modules and things like that. So I think we've come a long way.
So, special points. One, what you're describing tends to be snackable, which is a very big issue. The more snackable content, the more quickly you consume. It's visual, the more likely to share it, and that kind of stuff. But I see this kind of way to represent stuff. But now I'm going to play go back to a comment that a colleague of mine, former colleague, and Chip, Mr. Rail against for the same reason I'm going to play here. Made learning something easy. But what kid is presented with a problem that is complicated, they lose it. Some things are not fun and easy to learn, they're hard. Some things that we're teaching are complicated, are in-depth, do require deep reading, thinking, and processing. And if we completely dedicate ourselves to training in chunks that are easily consumed, easy, and all that kind of stuff, at some point we lose something what we're trying to do as far as education. At some point, when we let the students decide what the course should be, there's a point in having a professor because clearly the students haven't learned the things.
Yeah, that's the points, I think, and we have, the IRC who are experts in how to deliver material. There's always a little bit of tension because the professor knows the content. They don't want to dumb it down, obviously, make a flash sheet so the students can make it a little bit more easily. Although they're only to make it more accessible, and I think they teach cues from IRC to make it a little bit easier to digest. There is that tension between high quality students, but then also make it fun so that they don't lose an answer completely for that. I think the assignments are key as far as that goes. I don't think you can change the assignment. The assignment should title, and you need to, and the delivery might be a little more multimedia and that sort of thing. And IRC is very good to be very emphatic what our objectives are each week and how we mean it. It's a small thing that really changes what I teach online. I used to just put the readings for this week, and I would just put the sources down, a URL down. Now IRC had a good point, in a sense, is to sort of explain, well, why are you citing these readings? It's sort of helping them a little bit more because you're there in the classroom to sort of explain it. So that kind of helps to orient them a little bit more. And they do the exact same reading assignment. It's just a way of helping them to get into perhaps if they're struggling a little bit. That little thing of having a sense to say, well, here's what you should, look at this reading. Then they read it and they know what they're looking for. So I don't think it's just giving them, helping them a little bit to read the same, 225 pages that you would assign.
I mean, clearly there are lots of lessons that professors can learn, to take their content and make it more accessible. In academia, we usually struggle with the fact that our academic articles are read by 10 people, and what kind of impact on what your lifelong research ambitions yield when you read what you produce. And if they did read it, because political science, social science, the level of complex methodology is so high, and sometimes just in order to make you look good, rather than to actually make you look clear. we need to be able to take that research and make it accessible to a large audience, make it part of our training so that people can take that high-level research and use it to make things better, make the lives better than what it is. Yes?
Yeah, the attack. Had a lot of conversations with the women and the saw people. I think there are a few different ways to do it. There's the big issue of our self-paced, especially what we want to have. I just really, as long as you go into this with that in mind, just constantly challenge yourself and do a lot of testing on it. You're going to be able to find where people might have reactions that are unexpected. And I think that there's also a lot about how you design some sort of question and answer afterwards, and to make sure that you're getting out of it what you get out of it. So whether that, I mean, for religion project, for example, there are some sections where people have to actually write, like a paragraph to answer a question, and it will automatically pull up paragraphs where people have written. It's interesting that you can compare and contrast. And our first would actually pull like random. We've got there was privacy issues around that. So what we did is, as we beta tested it, we captured the answers that people gave in person, and then when someone writes, they can say, well, here's what you're saying, and it just do questions. So it's compared to contrast and give them a project. So what they wrote is wildly different than what someone else wrote. And maybe some deeper thinking, that's all questions from that. I mean, you can do multiple choice for some of it, that's kind of boring, but you can usually test whether or not people are people that's need out of it. And then there's also just sort of data. So if you can track your own sort of platform, if there's a scenario where you see people fall off a lot, you can do this, and then this is what they fall off. They sort of point you to maybe an area, turn people off, or you could get some sort of and maybe at the next. But that is the best. And there's nothing wrong with it either. Of course, these are not static.
You mentioned something about people not getting what you want out of the is there some comment on that in here?
Yeah, I didn't quite catch the original question. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit lost on this. Yeah.
Summarize. The concern was if you go through modularized, self-paced training instead of what happens when people get something I did in 10. How do you deal with that? What's the likelihood? How do you prevent? How do you respond to that? And hear some of the comments you had.
I think really it's where we found the blended learning workshops that we're conducting at the moment to be of huge benefit in terms of being able to examine what people have gained from the online tool, you know, versus the purpose of it and the actual situation. And you know, the trainers are finding that for quite a lot of the students that they're either not taking away what we expected, or as I said, have just pressed the forward button in order to get to the end, you know, without really understanding any of it. So the blended workshops at the moment are proving to be quite effective in terms of in increasing people's knowledge. But you know, the workshops will have a limited life. And the question is, what will happen when the tool is standalone without workshops to back it up? I mean, that's definitely a concern for all of us.
You know, I do want to say, when I started teaching politics back in 1995, 96, 97, at George Mason, in the first few years, the dean's office put together a committee of professors that were teaching internet-related content in their classes. And while we were focused on, you know, the impact of the internet, how it interplays with or things along those lines, there was clearly a bit on the question of how to move towards online classes, because there's more students for less money. And how do we get there? And lots of caution raised. Well, this loss of interactivity, there's a loss of control of what they get out of the courses, or even understand what they get out of the courses. That was the concern. With the routes of discussion formats, conferencing and things like that, I think tools at our disposal allow us to set and compensate what they could in fact then. I don't know what the numbers look like. Students to 15, you know, English course and 20, you know, the money is less. The amount of technology more so it might actually be special, but
yes, yeah, the potential is greater, right? And I just wanted to add too that we have on the other question was routine life experience teaching communication. The retention and they can students they're not checking class. You get that sometimes,
yeah.
And they say, you know, they're not checking class for 8 days. You know, everything's okay, and it's actually sometimes the students have been sick, or not busy at work, but it's just the students really care, and that we really want to stay in the class, and if there's an issue, we can help them and help them to work. But yeah.
You know, I was in Istanbul. So with civil society organizing countries talk about social media and things that I didn't stay too involved. It was the Asquat, and my understanding is that they created this after the fact, a community after the fact, to listen to language for the trainees to touch with each other. Things that I just didn't work. I this past we created Twitter of participation in training so that they could each other saying, reach out to each other, reinforce and each other. So is that you have that's what I mean, it was often like especially if you have of people who take an online program DVR concerning what was put together. Some of the modules that came together were some of the classes we created to be able to turn those participants, those trainees, those students, into a community after the fact. That to create an ongoing conversation where they're collaborating with each other, keeping in touch with each other, keeping in touch with them. It's more work in the mind, you know, in the context of what I was talking about, courses. But now all of a sudden you have the ability to see how what they've taken from the course, even though it was self-taught, to interact with them and see the lessons they learned. You have a way to follow up and add more substance or add more guidance to see them going off the track in a different direction. Somebody posted a photo about how they had training with us in India a couple weeks ago, and a couple other people chimed in and had very negative things to say because it was politics, not about the training itself, and that got into it. And what happened was, rather than upping and starting to defend ourselves, I just asked them, let's just see what happens. And sure enough, within the next day, several other people really got a lot out of it. And long post saying, well, actually, I found this such really helpful. And, you know, so let me sort of rise to add more context so that somebody may get the wrong conclusion out of the trainings that they did, but then they may get set the right path by another training, and because it's a peer as opposed to an instructor who may seem defensive, it's much, much more effective, I think. And you sort of sit back and watch it happen. And if it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, you just smile and say, what is it? Other questions? Well, how many of you?
Yeah, this is a new thing that we have with a group of people working in Hopkins who do is called retention services, and they can who's in your class, assign different classes. Email professors saying Joe Smith is not logged in for 14 days went on because we have a module system. It's not set up, and there might be a way of doing it to see how you're logging in. And just sending friendly emails. Is everything okay? And just getting their feedback back. You don't have the incentive of a grade. We do, which actually takes care of those issues. So, right away, I think students feel valued when they are. Oh, thank you so much for caring. I've had a hard week. And so the people who set your workshops common ground might feel something like that. I have experience with this than I do.
You are on the data,
Right.
The question is,
who's
data?
Right. I mean, there are a couple different ways. One, we haven't done this in any of our course options. Is you might be able to actually if you have email, capture the social media presence of your courses for people that way. And either posting about it or have any sort of social media pressure, of course, be taken. I think there's also a lot of literature about incentivizing people, and things like certificates are very, very powerful. And USIP hit me on the head when they did of course, for a couple of we get hundreds of resumes through our system for our symposium. It's amazing to me. USIP's analysis on their CVs. And I think it's come down because you have such a incredible name. There's a lot of power behind that. There's also badges. And we talked about that. We're looking sort of earn toward something. And it also are in a training to see where people are 3 of the 5 badges, and are people actually going to the other 5 badges, reach out to the people and why. If there's any I think that's amazing research. I think it's something that would be cool.
One of the things that when it comes to managing online page, I go to my Facebook pages that I manage a couple times a week, and I go through and I like the posts that people post. That is the cheapest refresher that you can possibly. One thing that I find is completely missing on Blackboard is you just click like in somebody's comment discussion. Sometimes I just want to acknowledge I thought it was interesting. And like other times, I impression there's a lot of the comments, and I just want to reinforce all my secondaries and click like even though I haven't necessarily read everything.
You can't.
Then you can't. You have to respond in order to get it to reinforce. And that's responding. That's always the best reinforcement. It is certainly not the only reinforcement. It should not be the only reinforcement. And the ability to have sort of built into the activities what we're doing in the modules is crucial, so that a instructor or the organization can say, yeah, like that, good comment, and that other people, who are, if it's a social environment, that other people also that they like that as well. It's such an easy and effective reinforcement. The thing I discovered in this case is that so many things that reinforce people's behavior are the cheapest, easiest, free, easiest to do. And not enough people do them to take advantage of it. Yes.
I mean, first of all, we're going to have to do it. So it's going to be a luxury. If they put it in A100, they're supposed to do it. Yeah. Okay. But I think one of the things that we did in the course was a video introduction. And a lot of what foreign service officers is their careers. The latter. So the initial video talks about why understanding these issues and really them and engaging with is good for career. Because if you it's good for your career, you'll start listening. I think you may see it's going live in a couple weeks, so we'll see. And there's another thing that we just did, put up an online training to super implicit security on Resolution 1325, initial action plans. next week and then 2 weeks. And at the end of it, we just took a page on Amazon. And when someone finishes, it just pops up with a 5-star rating. Of course, share your comments on Twitter, and some other social media. So it's really just basic stuff that they're already used to doing in their sites, including it in the courses. And sort of feels natural. You see, because live and no one does it, in speaking.
And if you build your discussion platform, Facebook discussion platform, then all of a sudden Facebook page. Your goal is to promote the trainings so other people take it. If it's the thing, you wouldn't want to do it that way. Have kind of some.
Yeah, so this one for they won't ever take it. So automatically trying to make something shared on their Facebook or whatever is in that.
What's that, you? No. Did you have your hand up before? Yeah, I'm going to make it. All right. Any questions? So I was going to ask a couple questions of you. How many of you are using online training as part of the work that you're doing yourself, your organization? How many of you are not using online training at this point with your work? Okay. So are you thinking about moving in that direction? Maybe. Okay. Right. Complementing things. Okay. Doing online training for kids, okay. Yes, while we're here, Michael, you've been tweeting, and somebody from Ipsy's been tweeting, and so we get some stuff that I can just kind of retweet rather than have right stuff I'm trying to. There's a question in the back here.
Experience of the output of your students, but outside of the formal, structured courses that normally. If you found that the experiences are about, so some of you want to be what's your experience of how you try to support the intense local structure? Because not everybody, especially the international program, developments and politics, it's not trained for it. A lot of things that we do, a lot of things that we do, the challenges that they're facing are new. You know, they're new to the work and they require how we share what's happening and there's an absolute I haven't really framed the question. But do you understand what I mean? It's more about round up. You know, learning from the experience round up, share.
Like as someone who's seen the platform that you're talking about, it goes back to what Alan was saying earlier, which is, okay, you have the formal online training. Of course, it's a platform, so it can be hosted on that, which is fine. But then the actual ability to capture the interactions, create space for really deep collaboration outside of maybe a formal training structure, which I think is really cool. And I'm excited about beta testing it starting soon. but being able to place where like, okay, so we've had this formal training, but it reminds me of this other video I saw. Boom, drop it on there, and then be like, oh, someone else should read this PDF. Drop it on there. Here's a link. Drop it on there, and in a way that sort of aggregates all the information is really easy to digest. I think it could be an incredible complement to formal training if you can get people on a platform like Johns. Right. Right. More so than like a Facebook. Right. But then being able to actually, so if one group is doing it and the next group comes in, being able to see what the last group did. Yeah, is I think a good add-on to any sort of formal online training structure.
There was a couple different things. One of the trainings that I did at the Foreign Service Institute in person was with the people who worked in the exchange programs. So Fulbright, for example, these people. So the people who were staff that were managing the communities and the people coming in both directions. And one thing that came across was the people who go one way and the people who come the other way at the same time never meet each other. And yet they're a natural community that should be cultivated. And so we spent some time talking about, well, what can you do to connect them to each other virtually so that there is this growing community of people who had shared but opposite experiences kind of thing. So there's that. So there's one element of that kind of makes me think on this. The other thing is the training that I do, the courses that I teach are interesting because I'm teaching people how to use online technology to do community organizing, campaigning, and advocacy. So I'm using the technology to teach them, and then I'm teaching them to use the technology to apply the same skills that I'm using to teach them to other activities in campaigning and organizing. So when my students finish, I do my best to build a Twitter list of all the students who took my classes. A lot of them, so I'm able to see what they're doing on social media and interact with that. I encourage them to connect with me on LinkedIn, so if they're looking for work and they can, network through my networks. And a lot of them end up going on and running, starting at junior level, but ultimately moving up and being digital directors at advocacy organizations around DC and around the world. So it is an interesting thing. It's an interesting microcosm because I'm able to see their application of what we learned in the class in the real world as they become part of the community that I'm also a part of. Because at the same time that I'm a professor in this space, I'm also a practitioner in this space. So that's been interesting, and I think ways to capture that dynamic in any training model would be really useful, to be able to know what people are doing after the fact, which is why I was so adamant about creating communities after the fact of people who took the training, so that you can not only see whether they got the right information out of it, but also so you can see them blossom in using what you taught them to do, and see them turn around and teach other people to do it as well. The more you can build that into those communities, the better. Whether you need to build that into your modules itself, or to tap into Facebook and Twitter and existing platforms where you can keep in touch with people where they're going to be anyway in their normal lives, rather than forcing them to keep coming back to a small space that they probably have no incentive to come back to, other than the fact that, to connect with you. I mean, if in other words, better to put it in a space where they're going to be using it all the time, like Facebook, and move your community there, than to force them to come back to your space after they finish the trainings. So I'm not sure if I'm getting exactly what you're what you're talking about, but ways to keep in touch with people after they finish training is not just about us, the trainers, keeping in touch with the trainees, but it's turning the trainees into a community who keep in touch with each other and learn from each other and help each other grow and be more effective, as well as interacting with us and us keeping in touch with them.
Yeah, I mean that's our alumni. That we have a big alumni networking group. We have an alumni board of advisors, and they're getting each other's jobs, and they're sending leads to us, and it's just such an important part of the Hopkins program. And they actually recommend students, and it's all a lot of our recruiting is word of mouth through the alumni network. So it's sort of similar. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've gone a few minutes over, so sorry for that. But thank you for some great conversation, great questions, great presentations. We seem to have lost Áine. Hopefully, she got to say all she wanted to. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We always seem to have these things because we do this on the fly. I used to have a film crew come in and do this for me, and they never showed up on time. So, but thank you everybody, and hope to see you at a future Internet Advocacy Roundtable.
I have a little something for you guys.